Oh, I'm gonna throw up.
Do it. Live on the podcast. Do it.
That would be good. Welcome to The Crunch, the only podcast that relies on work and not luck. It's your boy Ethan.
And I'm Patrick.
And that is why we are not as successful as some other shows.
Yes.
It's because we've had all of the work and none of the luck.
None of the luck. Welcome to my new setup.
I was going to comment about this. Am I now expected to have sort of a smorgasbord behind me to match your vibe?
I don't think so. I'm thinking about like making this area a little more like what's it called?
Nice.
Like like
Sorry.
this works for like Sean's stream. Like this is
Yeah,
very
it
Sean's
fits his
personality
vibe.
behind me.
Yeah.
It's like I love the Hobby Lobby.
Mhm.
It's wine o'clock somewhere
Yeah,
sort of thing.
that's funny. Yeah.
The Nintendo Switch thing. Phoebe's sister painted that actually. Kelly painted him a Nintendo Switch thing.
Okay.
The letterboard behind him referencing someone named Eric who I don't know.
Right.
The squishy animals that have names that I don't remember. I think the octopus's name is Oswald. He's got like a speaker and stuff. Yeah. And then of course the gay skeleton.
Yeah.
Um
Yes.
and so yeah, and the Lego Star Wars. I'm thinking about like figuring out a way to like close the curtains
That's what I was
so that
gonna say.
you know.
If you just close it over and then maybe had like a little sign that you put up that was like Patrick time, and then
Yeah.
everyone would be looking at it and be like, oh look, it's Patrick time. You
Something
know?
like that.
I think
Yeah, but
yeah.
Sean streams. His studio is there's a little room in our house that
Mhm.
is this size, right? It's very tiny. This is just
Yes.
it looks like it's about the size of a closet,
Yeah, I've
a little
seen it.
bigger than a closet. And yeah, you've been to my house.
Oh yeah.
And it used to be the office of the workshop of the people who lived here before. So the
Mm.
guy who lived here before
Were
fixed
they
watches,
toy makers? Oh, okay. Watches.
watchmakers, yeah. And so
Similarly, a
he would
European
toil
profession.
away. Yeah, he would
Okay.
toil away in this
Deep
office.
into the night.
Yeah, and so this office
Lost
has
track of
changed
time.
hands over the years. It used to, like, be the real estate office when my parents did real estate. It used to
Mhm.
be then it just became, like, the normal office, and now it's Sean's stream room, which is
Cave.
cool, you
Yeah.
know? And so I was like, "Yeah, let's, use let's, like, work together here, let's build up, let's soundproof this place," because Leo's bedroom is across the hallway,
Mhm.
his temporary bedroom
He
right
gets
across
his
the
own
hallway.
room?
No, no,
Oh,
our bed, yeah.
okay. I was about to
Yeah,
say, dang, that boy's living large. Moves to Florida, gets his own room. Come
right?
on.
The issue though is that the doors, the interior doors of our house are original to the house, so they're
Oh,
very old. Yeah,
sure. That's good though,
and
isn't it?
no, because the house was built in the 1960s, and so it was built with cheap materials
Oh.
interiorly. The interior materials
Hey,
were
I
cheap.
got good news for you. Houses built in 2023 are also built with cheap materials.
That's a good point. So you were thinking like, oh, it's old, so they must be like
It's
heavy
probably
wood. No,
real wood. Yeah. No, it's
it is
not.
real.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's real
What
wood.
is
I
it?
think it's
Pine? What are you rocking?
I don't
Pine?
know, but it's very
Those
it's
they
very
ain't cedar doors, I tell you that much. In the Florida humidity, that don't make no sense at all, having a cedar door on the interior
I
of
don't
the house.
understand.
I
I
don't
don't
know, it's making
cherry
sense.
wood. I don't know.
I just made up a guy, new guy just dropped, guy who really cares about the different woods that you use on interior construction in
Oh,
tropical climates.
I think this volume changes my volume. So
He
I'm
goes
gonna.
to a conference every year, and he's the only keynote speaker.
But yeah, so the interior doors are very thin,
Yeah.
and so I think the door needs to be like replaced with something a
Yes.
little more soundproof. And
Yeah.
then we need to take these corners and put some padding on the corners because
Yeah.
corners are really what kills the soundproofing,
Yes.
or the echo.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
How long do you expect to stay at this place?
Well, I don't know how long I expect to stay here.
Yeah.
Like at Do you mean in this space, recording space?
In this home.
Well, I hope to only be living at my parents' house for about a month or so.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, because, it's nice to have your own space.
I agree.
Yeah.
You're already feeling it, huh?
Not really. No, not really,
Okay,
because
that's
like
good.
my my mom's not here because
Mhm.
she's traveling for work. My dad is mostly gone all day. I have my own. They set me up an office downstairs, which is nice.
Huge.
Um,
Gargantuan.
yeah, but I think a space like this, where it's like a space that I have access to, where I can go and record the podcast,
Mhm.
would be beneficial. So
Ah, so
like I
you're going for,
expect,
like, a long-term play
yeah, I'm
of
looking
being
for a
able to.
long term, yeah, being able to record in Sean's room.
Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it.
Yeah,
And eventually, you'll edge him out, and he won't stream from there anymore. It'll just be you, and you'll be the podcast, and he'll be the rat king that's destroyed all the other creatures, and you will be
yeah,
victorious in the underworld of podcasting, and you will pull young boys and girls into your slave pens, and you'll use them to edit your content because you're the rat king now, and you're
yeah,
big, grumpy. Yeah.
yeah, Racking. That's what. Um, but yeah, I'm totally fine with having some of Sean's stuff behind me. I don't think it's a big deal because
Yeah.
it's like it adds to our whimsical. But there
It
needs to be
does.
some kind of cohesion, right? Like
Yeah,
it's a little bit like,
we need to have a brainstorm about what we want our visual identity to be, other than a youth minister's office, a vacuum cleaner, and the Blessed Virgin Mary, which are all great things,
good things. Yeah.
but it doesn't have the same panache as, say,
Yes.
uh, the Tonight Show, which is
Sure.
what we're going for.
We're going for the Tonight Show. Yeah.
Yeah, we're coming for their spot. We're gunning for them.
I was driving down the road. Oh, for those of you who don't know, I moved back to Melbourne, Florida. So
Yeah,
here
we
I
talked about
am.
this last week, but if you're
Yeah.
just tuning in, first episode of the show, Patrick lived in Pittsburgh for a long time, and then he was gonna move and be my neighbor, and then he said, "I hate you," and then he moved
Actually,
to
yes.
Melbourne, Florida.
Melbourne. And I was driving down US 1, North Harbor City Boulevard
Yeah,
in Melbourne, Florida. And I was driving past like one of those like those little strip mall areas,
yeah.
and it had one of those signs outside that has all the businesses. And one of the
Mhm.
businesses was just black background, white letters, podcast. And I was like,
Wow, that's where I want to do all my shopping.
what?
I'll get
And so
everything I need.
I was like, what is it though? And so I'm gonna go by
You should
someday and
let
be
us
like,
know.
hey,
Hey, I
you
hear you
guys do
sell
podcasts?
podcasts.
I hear you sell podcasts. I would like
Yeah,
to purchase a podcast, please.
yeah.
50 cc's of podcast right into my veins. Thank you very much.
CCs.
Yeah, cubic centimeters.
We're talking about Mario Kart now.
Cubic centimeters
All
is what
right,
we're
fair.
talking about.
Um, I'm not moving, but
No,
I
yes, you
have.
are.
Well, I am. I'm not moving right
It's like, yeah,
now.
you are.
I
Yeah,
am moving in about a month and a half. We'll see. Depends on if they can fix the thing that they messed up. They're doing a great job, but they just did something that's not. It's not centered. It's like, all right, well, why do you have more
oh,
space
that's right. You
on
told me
one
about
side
this.
than the other side? Anyway, not
This is a
important.
bonus podcast.
Yeah, we have the best teams working on it that are going to fix the issue. Um, but I have tomorrow and Friday off, which is
Oh, good.
great because I work for a Christian organization, and they give us the Triduum off.
Mm,
And so tonight we are departing on a 5-day journey
yes.
because we have not, probably since, I think Emma and I were thinking about it, we haven't been up to see like our families where they are since like June or
Mm,
July, I think, of
hmm.
last year. And so we're gonna go. We're gonna drive to Wichita on tonight, and we'll drive to Kansas City tomorrow, and then we'll drive to Nebraska on Friday, and then we'll be there Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll drive back to Wichita on
Yeah,
Sunday, and then come all the way back to Oklahoma City on Monday. So we're just
cool.
doing the whole circuit of, we're gonna see our Wichita friends, our Kansas City friends and family, our Nebraska family, and then stop in Wichita again and be home.
That's
And
awesome.
it's going to be a lot of traveling, be a lot of driving with the boy.
Yeah.
And we've just started sleep training, so we're going to screw all that up, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it because I think it'll be nice. It'll break up the monotony of the Triduum, which is, is good. But I don't know what I would do if I was just home all day for like 3 days. It's like you can't just
Yeah.
pray all day anymore, and I have like work to do. So I guess I don't know. It'll be nice to just not be home. I guess we'll be doing something, which
Yeah,
will
I
be
get
fun.
that. Yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, I haven't had like Triduum, a regular Triduum tradition in
Ever?
years.
Yeah.
years. No, I used to have it.
Mhm.
Our youth group was very like, this is what we do during the Triduum. Like it was,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, it was like we all went to Holy Thursday Mass, and then the next day we had living stations. So a lot of us were in living stations. So either you went or you were in it. That was
Yeah.
cool. And then Holy Saturday was, I mean, Holy Saturday is Holy Saturday. It's
Right.
very like, yeah.
Holy
And
Saturday is just is you just kind of
the
take a nap.
weirdest day of the year.
Yeah, it
You
is
just gotta,
really
yeah.
is a strange day because it feels very empty. Feels like you
Hmm.
shouldn't really do anything, but you also are like, I mean, I can't do nothing, you know? It's
Which is
just
a
weird.
good feeling to have on Holy
It is.
Saturday,
It
I
is a
think.
good
But you
feeling.
you gotta lean into it,
Yeah, yeah.
It's you gotta read what you gotta do is Holy Saturday. If you're feeling weird,
Good
look
thing that
up
this
the
podcast is
author.
coming out on Easter Sunday.
Dang, sorry, I forgot about that. Next
That's
year,
alright.
next year.
Next year, yeah, 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 think about it.
What you gotta do next year, Holy Saturday, is you gotta read the, "Something Strange is Happening Today," uh, reading from the Office of Readings on Holy Saturday. Do you know what I'm talking
Mm.
about?
No.
I don't it's an anonymous 1st century homily
Mhm.
about Holy Saturday, and
And
it's
we're just gonna
beautiful.
trust this guy?
We don't know who this guy is. Um, but yeah, so it's last year one of my friends, Steven, he was one on my core team. One of my friends, Steven, he led what's it called? Tenebrae
Yeah,
at Archangel Gabriel
yeah.
for 3 days. We
Wow,
did 3 days of Tenebrae at five
that's
o'clock in the morning,
crazy.
4 o'clock in the morning. It was great. It was awesome. And I got to read that reading during Tenebrae, and it was so cool.
Nice.
I'm gonna try and find out if there's a Tenebrae service around because I want to do that um, on the evening of Good Friday into Holy Saturday, and then well, back in the day in high school, we would all go to the Easter Vigil because that's what you do, and
Right.
then we would all go to the Easter Vigil, and then we would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to sunrise mass on the beach.
Nerds.
Yep, I've told you about this, and then
Yeah,
we would eat omelets, and
that's fun.
that's not happening this year. The omelet thing isn't happening this year, obviously,
Yeah.
because I mean,
COVID.
high school's over,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's just not happening. Although my friend whose dad used to do the omelets just texted me, so maybe I'll be like, "Yo, Zach, I'll make the omelets. You bring the
Yeah.
stuff.
I'll
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 do it."
bring I'll bring the eggs, you bring the
But it was like looking back, it was very biblical because after the resurrection, Jesus cooked breakfast on the beach, right? So
That's great.
that's the extent of the analogy. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was what Triduum used to be, and now it's just like I don't know. We'll find a church to go to, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be
That's what
weird
it was. Yeah.
because we're not gonna go to the Holy Thursday Mass because it's during Peter's bedtime, so that's kind of
Ah,
a
yeah,
fun wrinkle, you know? It's just
yeah.
like weird. My mom was like, "Are you gonna go to all the masses?" I was like, "Maybe. I probably not because
Probably not.
I
Yeah,
got a kid." So we probably aren't gonna go to the vigil, and so I haven't been to Easter Sunday Mass in a long time. You know, I've done the vigil for probably 7 or 8 years in a row
yeah.
now,
I don't think
and
I've
so
ever done Easter Sunday mass that
yeah,
wasn't on the beach, like
yeah,
in a church. And I hadn't done Christmas Day until recently either.
really.
It was always Christmas
Yeah,
Eve.
we always I think we've done Christmas Day maybe once, but we've always done
Yeah.
Christmas Eve typically. So everything just kinda gets thrown in a blender when you have your start
Mm,
having kids. It's like, "All right, well,
like that one song, the Heart in a Blender song by
well,
Eve Six. Yeah, no.
you're digging deep into a bag of tricks that I'm not privy to."
It's top of mind for me because we follow each other on Twitter. Wanna put my tender heart in a blender, water spin around to a beautiful oblivion. Rendezvous. Yeah, that song. No, I would swallow my pride. I would choke on the rinds, but
Keep
the
singing the
rinds are
lyrics and
completely
maybe
empty
eventually
inside.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no.
No!
I think we're both too young to get to get that song because it was popular in the
Probably.
'90s. Yeah, but
Ah, yes.
yeah, but I
In the
was in a
'90s,
huge
I
I
was
was in a
listening
huge
to
alt rock.
Mozart for Babies is what I was listening
No,
to
I
in the
was I
'90s.
was I was big into like I was big into like alt rock when I was in high school, and so I listened to like Eve Six and
Mm, mhm,
um
mhm.
uh Matchbox 20. Does that count? I think that does count.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any of that, but it'll be good. It'll be fine. Everything's weird. Everything is weird. That's what I've learned ever since having a kid is it's just weird and it's strange and nothing is ever the same. And everybody
Yes.
expects things out of you and you just can't do anything because you just have to take care of your kid who
Yeah.
expects the most out of you. every minute of
Yeah,
every day.
literally everything, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
So
huge.
it's
This is
good.
like I think this is good. Having kids is a good thing.
Yeah.
It teaches you to be a little less selfish, you
Yeah.
know, even
Well,
with your own spirituality, right?
in
Where it's like,
theory, I'm
in
still
theory,
struggling with that.
well,
Being
the
pretty
fact that you're
selfish.
struggling with it means that you're learning,
Yeah. Oh,
obviously.
whew, I got a lot of
If you
teachers.
weren't if you weren't struggling with being selfish, I would be concerned that you're actually learning how to not be selfish.
Yeah. This is good because it kind of dovetails accidentally into what I wanted the topic to be today.
Really?
Yeah, well, because I was reading a book. Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, sure.
But I read the whole book.
Whoa!
Whoa! Eric was here. Um,
Eric was here. He really
so
was.
it's funny because we're like talking about how we're only going to read nonfiction books on the main pod and then fiction books on the bonus pod, which is true moving forward. But this is my last
In
week where I
theory.
get to sneak in. I started reading a book that I got at the annual library book sale,
Oh.
and I just recently finished it. It's Hemingway. You might have heard of him, Ernest Hemingway. Uh, why are you laughing?
Yeah,
It's
sorry, you gotta specify which Hemingway, like Joe Hemingway,
Joe Hemingway.
Cindy Hemingway,
No, it's Ernest Hemingway, and
Muhammad Hemingway,
he is an interesting character. Have you ever read Hemingway, or do you know anything about him?
uh, Walden Woods, that guy?
That's Henry David Thoreau.
Hmm, what's the difference?
All right. I don't have time to give you a lesson right now, but I need you to stop being obtuse.
Okay.
Hemingway was cool because he was like an expatriate after the war, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
So he lived in Europe, and a lot of his books kind of reflect his it's like this weird this book that he wrote, it's his first book. It's called The Sun Also Rises. People say it's like the first modern book because it's very stripped down, or like one of the first American modern pieces of literature.
sure.
Not like Don Quixote modern, but like modern in the 20th century sense.
This is the first book. They didn't have
it's,
those.
it's,
I
that
can't
is
believe
saying
they
his first book.
invented books in 1890.
What the book is about is and it's very stripped down, so it's a lot of like the dialogue is very quick and there's not a lot of description about the characters, and so I think that style is something that was just not very common prior
Oh, sure.
to Hemingway writing this book. And so I don't really want to talk about the book itself. It's interesting. You can see how someone might read it and become an incel. You could see how people would think that Hemingway is an incel and that he hates women and Jews and gay people. I don't think that's what the book is about, but that's a lot of like the leftist critiques, is that there's
Oh, sure.
comments made in the book by characters about those people, and it's like, well, I don't think he was endorsing
Can't say those
this
people, but yeah,
guy being racist against the Jews.
sure.
I think everyone in this book was drunk the whole time, and it was
And
not,
so was Hemingway.
and so is Hemingway, right? But anyway, so at the end of the book, or like the second half of the book, it all centers around this festival in Spain.
I'm sorry. I gotta interject because based
Please.
on I I'm a fan of productivity books, right?
Yeah, of course.
And how like productivity books love to like look back on like old authors that were very successful. Like what did they do? For instance, I in my copy of Hunchback, which we're reading on the bonus podcast, right?
Whoa.
Um, it mentions that Victor Hugo, he in order to finish the book in a short amount of time, he had his assistant lock all of his clothes in a trunk so
What?
he couldn't go outside, and all he had was like a blanket for when he got cold. So he wrote the entire book in his underwear because if he had put on clothes, he'd be tempted to go outside and not finish the book.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I read that and I was like, oh, that's kind of like how people lock their phones in closets or whatever. And then
Sure.
I was reading a productivity book later and they mentioned that story like later that day. It was very funny. And I was like, I read that. I was like, that sounds like a productivity hack thing. But it's funny because like you read these stories about like Hemingway and Thoreau specifically, people love those guys when they talk about
Mhm.
productivity. Or Carl Jung like built a castle that built a tower that he locked himself in or whatever.
Mhm.
And then you read the actual biographies of their life. It's like in the productivity version, it's like, oh, they went into like this cabin and they chilled there. And in the real life, it's like, and they were also like whacked
They
out on
were
amphetamines.
Yeah, they
It's
were
like
really
just
drunk
doing
and on
cocaine
drugs
and
the
going
whole time.
like
Yeah. But
yeah,
that's how a lot of great art comes about, you know?
just drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we podcast in our underwear?
Doing it right now, baby.
Oh no,
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
he's not,
I am
folks.
wearing
He's
gym
not.
shorts.
I'm wearing I got some britches on. I won't
I
say
was wearing
what
a
kind.
T-shirt. I was wearing a T-shirt that advertised an unnamed podcast network that I don't want to give free pub to on the podcast.
The Ringer?
Yeah, and no, and so I threw on this shirt that I once wore with blue pants, and someone on stream said that I looked like a gender announcement balloon. So that was funny.
Someone on stream. You were on stream?
When I was on stream a couple of months ago, I think it was Bagel said
Oh.
that I looked
Oh.
like a
Bagel.
gender announcement balloon. Yeah,
That's so mean.
I know Bagel.
What the
Bagel was
heck?
poning me the entire old school poning me during my Pokemon stream because he was like, "Oh, you just got to Lavender Tower. I beat the Elite Four. Sucks." He was speed running against me, and he won, obviously.
Yeah, because he's got time, and you were literally live streaming from your workplace.
No, no, no. He was doing it as I did it.
Oh, at the same
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah. He was
Oh,
playing it against me.
what a that's 3D chess.
I think what he did was he just beefed up his starter so that his starter could just like barrel through everyone.
Yeah,
That's what he did.
I figured out the only time I played Pokemon, I figured out if you just level up your Blastoise, you can do anything. Then there's no
Yeah,
rules. So
yeah.
that's just what I did. I was like,
You
all
don't like
right,
need to build up a team or anything, you
yeah,
know?
water power. Got them. Okay, so anyway, so this book it centers around the festival in Spain where they do the bulls and the running.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of things in this book that are interesting, but this is very you read a lot of books from this time period, kind of early 20th century, even back into the 18th and 17th centuries, books that were set in these time periods. A
Mhm.
lot of times you see people just going on vacation for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And they're just buying alcohol and food and staying in hotels and buying train tickets and renting cars and doing all these things. And it's not explained in these books as if that's anything weird.
Yeah.
And so that makes me I was reading this and I was thinking about the nature of the feast because a lot of the book centers around this 7-day long festival
Mhm.
that's kind of a religious festival, but then it's also the bullfighting and it's also the running with the bulls and
Yeah.
it's all kind of together. And first, like the main characters on they go fishing for like 2 weeks before this festival and they're already traveling to other places. And then after the festival's over, there's like another 2 weeks where he hangs out at some other like beach town. It's like, okay, so it's like you calculate up all the time that this cast of characters has been not doing anything. It's like a lot of time. Granted, one of the characters I think like inherited some money, but
Yeah.
she wasn't paying for anybody else. One of the guys was just in debt. And I think it was just really easy to get in debt back in the day because it felt like every character, you read a Dickens book, everyone's in debt, everyone's got
Yeah.
creditors. So I
Uh-huh.
guess you could just go and accrue debt in places, and like
Well, yeah,
never,
because indentured servitude was, like, real back then, and
yeah,
people were fine with because one of 2 things, they either get their money back or they get a
they
slave.
get a slave, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, but then it's like the main character is just a guy who works at a newspaper
Uh-huh.
writing stories, and most of the time he's not even writing stories; he's just drinking and eating and going fishing. And I'm just part of me is like, okay, is this fictionalized? But then the other part of me is I've seen this so many times where people just go on holiday for so long, and it makes me think about we don't. It's crazy that in America we have there's so much money, there's so much productivity, there's so much wealth, and you don't see anybody taking a month to go fishing, in the mountains.
No, it's crazy because we have all of the like, what you're describing is the upper middle class
Okay. It
back then.
didn't it didn't feel like that in the book. It didn't feel like
No.
that they were very wealthy people,
But
but
what you're just like a salary, the idea of a salary is like you just get paid a stipend from this organization
yeah.
and you just do the job kind of.
Yeah.
But there was like no expectation. Like I he works for a newspaper
Yeah.
to write
He's
stories.
like a foreign correspondent, like a
Yeah.
newspaper in America, like the Toronto Star or something,
Yeah. So
and
he
he lives in
expenses all of
Paris.
his so he expenses everything
Yeah.
and he writes a story a month and they're like, "Great."
That's
Because
crazy.
they're not doing like 24-hour news cycle stuff,
Sure.
or he writes one story a week. I don't know.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
it's like, I mean,
But even
priests used
even
to.
so, we can talk about that. But the other thing too is that 7-day festival with the bulls and everything. There were lots of also in the story. There were lots of people from just the Spanish countryside, like farmers and peasants that came and also partied for 7 days and drank and ate and did all of
Sure,
those
yeah.
things. And so that's like it's like even the poor people could afford to take a week off of work and party for 7 days in a row.
Yeah.
And that's even something
I
that we
don't
don't
know how
see.
much of that is fictionalized, but
Right?
you could imagine like a harvest festival where it's like, "Hey, we're all done with our harvest.
Yeah.
Let's go drink, baby. Let's
Right.
run."
Right.
I don't know. I there must be something different. I don't want to like look at that book and say, "Oh, things must have been different back then." Because like you watch TV shows and it's like when does Jerry Seinfeld go to work? Like when do
That's
these
true.
people how
Yeah.
does Kramer get his money? You know what
Well,
I mean?
Jerry works at night. They show him at the beginning of every
Oh, that's
episode
true.
doing stand up,
Working.
Yeah. And he's always flying places.
But it's
Kramer
like how are
obviously
they
never
always
works. That's the
how
bit.
are
Is
they
it
how are these people getting any of their money?
Yeah.
Or like the people in Friends or How I Met Your Mother. It's like how are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
all
Right.
free all the time?
Yeah.
Community is a better example. They all go to college and they're never shown like working.
Yeah.
Really.
That's pretty true to real life though.
Yeah. Like they all live off of like one of them is independently wealthy. And this is the answer, right? One of them is independently wealthy for community, right? Two of them are probably living with their parents. One of them is living with his parents. Uh I don't know how Jeff gets his money because he lost his job. That's the whole point of the show.
Mhm.
Um I don't know how Shirley gets her money because she's a single mom. There's a couple of characters where it makes sense, a couple where it doesn't. Um but I think this is like if you see people, I don't think peasants would be able to take a month off and go fishing. Um,
Probably not.
but I guess to your point, right? None of us are peasants.
Right.
you know,
Right. I'm just
we're
even if you do a 1-to-1 and you look at the upper middle class in America, how many of them are taking a month off? You know?
yeah, and it is wild. It's wild because like, man, I saw this LinkedIn post that was like, uh, never ask for 3 weeks off because during those 3 weeks they'll find out they can get along without you, and then you'll get fired. And I was like,
That's
that is
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
You're probably right. But also I hate that so much.
Yeah.
And there's very few jobs where you can simply, be and still survive. I
Mhm.
think that's why a lot of people look at stuff like this, podcasters or
Right.
YouTubers,
Creative work.
creative work, and they go, "Ah, I would love to do that." People
Right.
do this a lot with writing,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah.
That's what they do with writing.
Probably
They say, "I would
because they
love to be a."
read this guy who's a writer and he gets to fish in Paris and and fall in love with a woman, but he's impotent and he just drinks all the time.
It's probably why he's impotent.
He's
Um,
impotent because of his war wound.
oh, he got shot in the he
Yeah.
flammed.
You like that video that I sent you?
I watched it like 6 times. I sent it to Sean and Nick was like 6.5 million views, and I was like, "Yeah, that's it? I don't
Yeah.
understand."
Yeah.
That was just me. I watched it 6.4 million times. I don't know where those other 100,000 came from.
Oh, man. We found that was a very funny video about Daffy Duck that I cannot share publicly on the podcast, but if you would like
But
to
we'll
see it,
share it with the complete breakfast subscribers
yeah,
on
yeah,
Patreon.
on Patreon subscribers will figure out which video that we're talking about. But anyway.
Anyway, but yeah, I think people do this. People romanticize creative work in this way.
Yeah.
It's like if only I could make money off of off of writing,
Yeah.
then I'll be able to live the life that I want. Where in reality, you should be able to do this if you like work at a work at a church
Yeah.
or work at a newspaper.
The other element too that was interesting to me, it wasn't so much the oh, these people took a bunch of time off because I recognized that things were different back then and you just had money and it got wired to your account from overseas and no one really knew anything. you know, because it was just so I don't know, it was different because there was a lot. It was post World War One, so everyone and so you had these Americans living in Europe, and it just kind of was like we're just going to do what we want to do.
Yeah,
But the thing that was more interesting to me was the 7-day feast because
sure.
I'm thinking about Easter coming up. This is why I said it dovetailed. So I'm thinking about Easter coming up. I'm thinking about if I feasted for 7 days, you'd have to bury me in a hole. I think
You would die.
because I think I would be dead because I don't know. I don't have the endurance. These people, all of them, they were getting up early, they were drinking. The Spaniards were dancing all day long. Everyone was drinking wine all day. They stayed up late to go to the bullfights. They would drink after the bullfights. They kept dancing. They would go to mass and like pray and go to confession, come back out into the streets, keep dancing. And it's just like I I I go outside to grill a hot dog and I have to sit down.
The stamina of these Spaniards, I tell you.
Yeah, so I wonder, do we have a feasting stamina problem? Because it doesn't seem like we have a stamina problem when it comes to working. But then when you say like you look at, oh, I'm gonna party for 3 days, it's like, wow, he's really going on a bender. You know, that's whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would even begin. How do you structure
There was
a
that
week long feast? I don't
there
even
was
know
an
what to do.
Onion article that was like local man almost had a good time. Like he almost
Yeah,
enjoyed an evening with friends, but
yeah.
then he remembered
Remember
that
he
he
had
has to
work
like
like
buy his
yeah,
mom a gift or something, you know,
yeah.
like uh yeah, it's we have a strange I think the technologies that allowed people to do that,
Mhm.
like go like wire money from the New York Times overseas to my
Mhm.
account, you can't track me, you don't know what I'm doing. Those technologies, as they progressed, ended up becoming the very things that enslaved us later,
Yes.
right? Because now you can wire money directly to my account, but also you can monitor me. And so
Yeah.
you can tell,
Mhm.
it's easier for like okay, so I work for Decided Excellence now, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, crazy.
Future sponsor
And
of the show.
possibly.
That's what they're
Um
saying.
so I
We'll
sell
bill them in
sponsorships.
arrears for all the times that we've mentioned their name.
What's funny is that I don't know if I told you this, but I was talking to them about uh they were talking to me about sponsoring the show, and they're teaching me how to sell sponsorships for a local magazine. So they're teaching me how to sell sponsorships.
Yeah.
And they were like, "We should sponsor your show." And I was like, "Hey, if I can't sell you guys on a sponsorship for my show, you should probably just fire me." Right? Because like
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah, they should.
what was funny was like I learned all this stuff about how to sell sponsorships and like how to get an organization to sponsor your creative product, which is like a magazine, a Catholic magazine. And I was like, "Oh, I've been doing it so wrong. I've been having so many like useless meetings with people who can't make
Yeah.
decisions, you know?" Anyway,
Yeah.
but like so in the past, right? It's like uh if I if someone if some company wanted to start magazines all over the country, they would send someone to like run local stories and find local sponsors and advertisers and all this stuff. And like they wouldn't be able to like communicate with me daily,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
But like Decided Excellence can because like we could text back and forth, right? And so like with foreign correspondence and like people working all over like these national companies,
Mhm.
they were good in the sense that they were centralized but disconnected, but now we have centralization and connection, and those two things are a problem. Because
Yeah.
centralization
Yeah.
and connection means that the decision making happens far away from you and it has an immediate effect on you. Whereas before, the centralization meant decision making took place far away from you, but it didn't really matter
Right.
because you could just not do what they wanted.
Yes.
But these powerful centralized organizations got wise and they were like, well, we need to tighten this up a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. I feel like also there was a lot of like waste back then in terms of like you could just spend
Yeah.
money and it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Especially in America, especially in post-war America. It was post World War One though,
Yeah.
but maybe
This
not.
was post World War One Europe. But is that I think it's hear me out. Is waste the worst thing in the world?
Oh no, 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 no,
Okay.
not if it's a rich guy's money.
Okay.
I'm saying like they weren't like counting. making
No, no,
sure
there wasn't very strict bookkeeping,
they weren't
but
sending receipts back overseas.
no, no, they weren't doing that. But it also feels like we're so afraid to even ask for a system where, like, I feel like if you ask the average American, you ask them like, "Hey, would you be comfortable taking a month off?" I think people would not know what to do with themselves
Yeah.
if they had a month off of work. Like, can you imagine it?
No, I know exactly what they would do.
What would they do, Patrick?
They would start a side business. They would start a side hustle.
Yeah. Golly, I can't imagine any American person who's making 50 grand a year. Say
Mhm.
you get a month off, you get your whole salary, do with it what you will. Are they going fishing and camping and hiking? Probably
Well, it's
not.
crazy because that's what Cal Newport was talking about this on his podcast recently. He was like, if you go to your boss and say, I'll take a cut in salary, whatever. I would like to work 8 months out of the year. And 4 months, I just take 4 months off. And you can keep paying me through that. I'll take a salary cut, obviously. But and he was like, just do that. You don't need $250,000 a year to support a family of four. So just take that pay cut, bring it down to 100 or 150 or 200 and just chill. You're fine. Obviously, if you're like,
I
you're
would do
still,
that if I was making $250,000 a year,
yeah,
brother.
that's who he's talking to. He's
Yeah, yeah,
talking to like wealthy engineers. Now,
yeah.
how about the rest of us who are not making $250,000 a year?
Right.
They can't do that. But it's
No.
like, I think that if I'm being honest, I think that my job as a youth minister would not have suffered if I took summers off.
No.
I think that I would have been able to. I think I would have been able to be fine.
Yeah.
Um, Teachers do this, professors do this. They take sabbaticals where
Yeah.
they don't get paid their research salary stipend. They get paid, or they don't get their teaching stipend. They get paid their research stipend because
Mhm.
the idea is like you need to go spend time in leisure. I guess leisurely leisurely jobs are valuable. They
Mhm.
are generally only accessible to the upper middle class,
Yeah.
just because globally speaking, Americans are upper middle class, just
Yes.
writ large. If
Yes.
you have a salary above $50,000 and benefits, you are upper middle class.
That's what I
So
mean when I
why
say
can't we
America's a
do
rich
this?
nation. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because we're a Protestant, not a Catholic nation, because we don't have this was the whole Easter thing. It's like if let's say, we celebrate Easter, we understand that there's an octave of feasting after Easter. I'm in a position where I work for a company that's mostly Catholic,
Mhm.
where if I said, "Hey, I appreciate you guys giving me the Triduum off. Um, I'm also going to take off the 8 days after Easter."
I think New Polity gave everybody a Holy Week, Easter week, and the week after Easter vacation.
That's great. If
Just gave it.
probably not because I just started like 2 months ago, so it's kind of like I haven't really done anything yet, so it feels kind of
Yeah.
disingenuous to be like, "I'm going to take a week off now." But
There is a
next
reason
year,
why you have to earn vacation days in
yes.
some companies. Yeah.
But next year, I'm going to be fundraising. I'm going to have proven like, yeah, I can hit the goals that you set for me. Like
Mhm.
I'm a pretty competent fundraiser. I've met a lot of people. I'm going to do all these things. Next year, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna take the week after Easter off, and me and Emma have talked about doing like a family week of feasts. But it's just sad because there's no like I can't get my friends to take that time off,
Yeah.
because not everybody else is in that position where they work for like a Catholic organization or work in something that's flexible like fundraising or sales. And so it just is there a way to do this culturally? Ba I don't know. Yeah, probably not. We're just
I mean,
too
the other thing
far
is
we're just too deeply enslaved into the technocratic state to ever have
yeah,
more
I
than
mean,
3 days off at a time ever again.
the thing is that we're too dependent on money. I understand like you need like these guys needed money to live, but like not everybody needed money exclusively to live.
Yeah.
The peasant farmers were able to take time off because they could store all of their food, so they had their base livelihood there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? But
And they
now
weren't in a 30-year debt to a bank to own their
you have to,
property.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
You have to spend money every day. Like
Yes.
you can't
I'm
you
spending
can't
money
take
right now
time
because 'cause I've
off.
got electricity on. You know,
Yes.
this costs
Yes.
what I'm doing right now is costing me money.
Yes. You have to spend money. It's like crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, the amount of money, like just moving into our parents' house, my
Yeah.
parents' house,
Oh my gosh.
was like the monthly expense for this month we looked at. I was like, holy cow, that's just so much gone. It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous, which is helpful because I didn't get all my vacation days paid out. Whatever. You guys warned me, and I just didn't heed.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I did get all my school paid for, so
That's good.
that's helpful. But
Ye
yeah, it's like there's constant money being spent, and I don't think that was the case. Like if you
Mhm.
there's that story in the Bible about like a woman who has 10 coins. Could you
Right.
imagine 10 coins?
10 coins. Is that a lot of
That's not a lot
coins?
of money at
That's
all.
not a
That's
lot of
just
coins.
10 coins.
Yeah.
And she's like looking all over the place for her coin.
Yeah. Because she's very
Crazy.
responsible. But it's
But what I'm saying is
interesting.
like she was able to survive. That woman obviously
Right.
was able to survive only having 10 coins.
Yeah. Or that person who puts their last 2 pennies in the thing, and Jesus is like, "Look at this person." But it's like, obviously, if they needed that to live, they wouldn't have done that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that person was like, "I can give the last of my money because I have other ways to take care of myself besides money." But
Yeah.
he was
Like I
detached
will
from the
survive.
money,
Yeah.
and Jesus was like, "Look, he's giving up the last of his money."
It was she. It was a
It
woman.
was a woman, sorry.
It
Yes, it
was
was
a
a
widow.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I like the speaking of Thoreau, which was the Walden Wood thing. The
Yeah.
Walden Woods thing was like he built a cabin and tried to see how much he needed to work just to live. And so he brought his expenses down to like the lowest possible state,
Mhm.
and he found that he only had to work 1 day a month. He only had to hire himself out for labor 1 day a month. And the reason why he was fighting against this exact thing that you're talking about, this technocratic like economic upspin where people are like, well, if I buy a tractor, I can increase my output by 50%. He's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but now you have to upkeep a tractor,
Yeah.
and it's all of this like this growth and growth and growth and growth and growth. But eventually, if you grow and grow and grow, you become dependent. Sure, we built roads with cars and they can go fast, but now you have to have them. And cars on average
Yeah.
cost an American $8,000 a year. So if
Right.
you have a $50,000 a year job, almost 20% of that is going to your car.
Mhm.
15%, we'll say 15.
Even just think about, like, a house, right? There's more money in the economy. Great. That means I can, instead of taking half a year or a year to build my own house full time with all my
Mhm.
family and all my friends in the whole village, I can pay hired workers to build my house.
To
Okay,
do it, yeah.
cool, cool. So you, guy, 100 years ago, can't afford to do that. Awesome. And then you still own it, right? Because you've paid for the materials, you've bought the land, or you inherited the land, and you don't have to go into debt to do that. Awesome. If you like draw that out, and now you have a bunch of dudes employing a bunch of other dudes who also have to employ other dudes. Like, it's not just, it used to be like you could, okay, hey, go get me some timber for this. And you just had a guy go to the timber place and then get the timber. Now there's like 14 levels of dudes in between you and the timber,
Yeah.
because of just how it, like, I don't know how to describe this, but it feels like with the growth, everything just gets stretched out and more intermediaries begin to exist between you and the resource.
Yes. This is Bruno Latour. We have never been modern.
I
He's
loved Grenade. He's just my favorite song by him.
I don't know what that
'Cause
means, but
I'd catch a grenade for you.
oh, that's Bruno Mars.
Oh,
But yeah, so uh sorry, I got distracted by Jersey Shore because they say grenade all the time in Jersey Shore and I don't quite know what it means. But
Jersey
anyway,
Shore is something that never really caught my eye,
never really hit for you.
I knew about Pauly D and I knew about Snooki. Snooki was the
What about
proto
Mike
Kim
the
Kardashian.
Situation? Yeah.
The Situation, right? But that was, like, really everyone kind of talked about it and knew about it, but I wouldn't even know what channel it was on to watch it.
TMZ?
TMZ is a news outlet.
CNN?
Okay,
Maybe
maybe.
on Maybe on Fox
Maybe
Business?
on CNN, maybe when Trump was in office, it was a lot like Jersey Shore, you know what I'm saying? With the orange, Trump is as orange as
Orange
Snooki
spray
fake
tan.
tan, and
Cheeto Man.
yeah,
Cheeto
and
Man, Orange Man bad.
Mike the Situation Pence.
Where was I going with that?
You were talking about
Um,
Bruno Latour.
Bruno Latour in We Have Never Been Modern talks about how the modern world tries to like get rid of mediation,
Mhm,
tries to separate nature from society
mhm,
and isolate one or the other.
mhm,
And in so doing, it as it tries to get further and further apart, there are actually a bunch of hidden connections between them. So like he calls them hybrids. So like a phone, we think of it as purely technology, but in reality, it's a hybrid between technology and our brain chemistry. There's like a connection between how a phone works and
mhm.
how our brain works
Yeah.
because the way our brain works has determined how the phone works. The phone wouldn't have those colors if they didn't make our brains go wee woo. You know, the Twitter algorithm wouldn't work like that if our society, like the Twitter algorithm, is not purely technology. They have a
Mhm.
Democrat and Republican button in there. It's open source now. We all found it,
Yeah.
and so like that is a connection between technology and society. And so like the all of these hidden connections, we try to get the modern world is trying to get rid of mediation. This is interesting because Father Harrison's definition of modernity, which is my favorite definition, is it's a denial of mediation. But I was reading The World Beyond Your Head recently, which it's an anti-liberal book, it's an anti-modern book, and he talks about how modernity has too much mediation in it.
Mhm,
I thought, how can both of these things be true at the same time? Because I understand what he's saying, like because he's saying like your car is mediating the world to you.
mhm.
It's like you are not able to like experience the feeling of driving because the car is soundproofed. So you can't hear how loud your engine is. The car is air conditioned. You can't feel how hot it is outside. You can't hear the sound. The radio is playing, so you can't hear anything outside. So I was like, what does this mean? I think it's on the outside, it's a denial that there's mediation, but
Mhm.
underneath the surface, there's more mediation than there ever has been.
Right.
It's the wrong kind. It's not a human mediation, it's
It's like
technocratic.
a blindness. It's like an imposed blindness and a willful blindness
Yeah.
towards the mediation that is there. It's like
Mhm.
increasing it. It's like Satan's working at it from both angles, right? He's like he wants to increase the distance between us and the real, and then also make us think that we're as close to the real as we've ever been.
Yes. Yeah, it's important that we trick ourselves in that way. So yeah, I guess, there's nothing that can be done. It will all fail eventually. Uh, that's fine. The only thing that we can do, right, is
Take a month
become
off.
more human.
Oh.
So, like, in I I was thinking about this recently because I was reading Jenny Odell's How to Do Nothing. I just read
Mhm.
the first couple of chapters. It's different than I because she's oftentimes placed beside Cal Newport because
Mhm.
their book Digital Minimalism and How to Do Nothing came out at the same time. But
Mhm.
Jenny Odell is like a philosopher. She's like a professor. So
Yeah.
she is a professor of like art, and so she's very like cerebral. Whereas Cal Newport is very much like, just delete your stupid apps, man. Just come on.
Yeah.
And she was writing about how like people want to move back to the land. They want to like move out to the land. And she asked the question, she was like, "Have you even moved to like where you live? Really?
Mhm.
Do you actually live where you live?"
Mhm.
Because most people live on the internet and they
Yeah.
just happen to have a house in Melbourne,
This is
Florida.
what we talked about last week.
Yeah, and so she's like, "Try moving to a place." You
Yeah.
know? Try moving really like moving deeper into your community, be more human in that regard. So like I guess the answer is, the problem was started by centralized power, right? Centralized businesses, governments, banks, right? The only thing that we can do is decentralize, and that decentralization can't happen from top down. It has to happen from bottom up. It has to be your community asserting itself as a political force in your city, and your city asserting itself as a political force in your state, right? Like that's just how it has to happen. Um, anyway, so it's unfortunate because it means that we're not going to have this big revolutionary moment.
No.
We're not going to be able to tickle that funny bone we're not going to be able to scratch that itch of revolution.
Yeah.
But it does mean that our grandkids will have a better world. So
Yeah.
just
And
that's
it's
good,
just
right? You love your grandkids.
right. If you teach your children like what could be and what should be,
Mhm.
and you start reading these books that are older than 10 years old, you can start to it like expands your view of what the world could be like,
Mhm.
and you can see the pitfalls, right? It's definitely like I'm talking about this book. It's like there's definitely some flaws in these people and like how they're living. And so you can see the risks of, the guy who gets super into debt, and the woman who has a bunch of affairs, and the other guy who uh, is so stricken with like what's it called, depression about his situation, about how he can't find a wife or he can't find a woman, that he just latches on to all the people around him and like becomes a sycophant basically.
Mhm.
And like you see these flaws in these people, and I think good literature can pull that out uh, of you and like help you understand, help you teach your children, like, wow, this is the way that this all is not how it has been and not how it could be.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear more about that, you can go to patreon.com/the crunch, and you can subscribe at the $10 a month level for our bonus podcast, where every week we're going to talk about literature in a way that is real and deep. And we're going to talk about the book. People are asking for like a reading plan
Oh,
for
baby, you're
The
speaking my
Hunchback of Notre
language.
Dame.
I gotta do a little research to make a reading
Yeah,
plan.
Patrick's gonna make a reading plan. Can you finish that today? Because I have to
Oof.
have as much of this.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. Fine. I'll add
Well,
that to my
no,
plan.
I mean, I just have to. We have to record this podcast on Monday, and I haven't read any of it yet.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
just
So you
need to
gotta
know how
read
much
it.
of it I need to read.
Mhm.
I'm gonna start. I mean, I guess you could do it tomorrow if you really had to.
No,
Uh,
I'll work on it today.
all
I'm
right.
planning on.
Do whatever you got to do, man. But patreon.com/the crunch is the place to be if you want to hear from now until the end of time about all of the history of literature and the cool things that we'll be
Yes.
reading, especially The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which we're starting next week. Patrick, do you have a Dr. Ethan's dating corner?
This is from r/Catholic dating, Ethan. I want I want to hear your thoughts because this
Okay,
is okay. This is
I'm ready.
caught up courting. Hey y'all, I, 30 male, met a good Catholic woman, 28 female, online dating 6 months ago.
Great.
She currently lives in another state, though I live in her home state, which I've called home since I was 18. She
Wow.
was honestly an answer to my prayers when we first started
Mm,
talking. This is a very Reddit post. It's very long.
hmm hmm
Here's my entire life story. Neither of us had taken online dating seriously, and each of us have gotten out of relationships. Things are going great. We both want the same things: family, kids, stay-at-home mom, etc. She's well educated, high earner. I'm currently in a career transition, becoming a lawyer. I even agreed to her idea of trying traditional courtship. This is a weird way to phrase it. No bedtime fun until marriage.
No
Hey
bedtime
man, you're
fun.
30 years
You're
old.
30 years old. You can
You're
just
30.
say sex.
You can say sex.
Oh, boy.
Bedtime fun.
Bedtime
Why are
fun.
you talking to a toddler? All right.
All right.
Uh, even waiting to have our first kiss at the wedding.
Wow.
Which is funny because that's, I guess, traditional courtship is that. I don't know.
I don't
She
know what
laid out all this,
courtship is.
weighing the few weeks of us talking. I was intrigued and agreed. So far, it's been long distance.
Okay.
That makes it easier, I guess. We've agreed to meet for the holidays and exchange gifts, meet families. I've never had such an open kind of relationship. It's freeing. I didn't intend on finding a relationship like this. We had talked about the possibility of her moving back to her home state, where I live, and getting more official and spending more time together before we decide to become engaged and married. Um, the seriousness in the timeline never really bothered me. I'm in my 30s. I have a lot of life and relationship experience, more than her. She's 28.
Okay.
Okay.
Calm down.
I think I've learned to set good boundaries and maintain a vision for what I want. Yesterday, she brought up that she spoke to her counselor and they recommended she not move until there's an engagement ring. A therapist. Anyway, unless I wanted to move where she lives, I'm thinking I don't want to do long distance relationship again. Basically, made it known that I'm not going to propose to a long distance girlfriend I don't get to see often. So there's conflict. She doesn't want to move unless it's a sure thing. I don't want to engage without having spent more time together. Her family mentioned making regular trips, etc. Do I end it and focus on the grind before either of us invest more time into this, or do I accept her solution? Um, Apparently, she said her family mentioned making regular trips at a time to spend time in the evenings while she works during the day. I feel like she slash they are trying to find a sensible middle ground. Um, I'm going to okay, yeah, that's all the important stuff. So I guess the main issue is that her counselor said, "Don't move
Don't
until
move
there's an
there.
engagement ring,"
Yeah.
and he doesn't wanna propose until
They're in the same place.
they're in the same place. So there's a catch-22 here.
Yeah.
What do they
Yeah.
catch-22?
Joseph Heller is rotating in his grave right now.
I think he's been constantly rotating. I think they made it so that the
Yeah,
little concrete block where they put him
he could
spins.
never sleep.
Yeah.
Poor guy. He's in the eternal sleep, but never gets to rest. Now that's a catch 22.
That's a catch-22.
So yeah. Oh, bedtime fun. Such a weird. I think this guy. I don't know. I don't know this guy from Adam, but based.
What did he think traditional courtship was if he had to specify you don't get to have sex? Like, what did he think non-traditional dating was,
Yeah, I want that
you know?
non-traditional traditional courtship where you have sex, but you feel bad about it.
That's non-traditional courtship, baby.
No, yeah. Um, I think I think this guy probably just needs to move.
Yeah.
He just needs
Yeah.
to suck it up. I
Oh,
understand
no, he can't move because he's in school.
he can't move because he's in school. How does
Yeah.
it say how much longer he has in school?
I don't remember. It was too long. I don't wanna look.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes the most sense is just say, "Hey, I wanna move there. Let me finish school first. I'll come and see you as often as I can."
Mhm.
And then that way, because you don't wanna have to tell her like, obviously, I think that counselor is kind of dumb for saying, like, you can't move until there's an engagement ring, and then, obviously, this woman placed a lot of trust in what her counselor says.
Yeah.
I'm also like, "Hmm, don't know about that," but
'Cause, like, I understand that, like, your counselor probably knows you well,
sure.
but the idea don't move until there's an engagement ring, unless she's moved for guys before. Actually, it sounds like the counselor doesn't wanna lose a client.
Yeah, probably.
It's a little biased there maybe.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I tend to, like, distrust those kinds of advice. Like,
Mhm.
spiritual director, maybe.
Yeah.
Regular confessor, probably not, especially if you go anonymously.
Mhm.
Um, counselor, maybe.
Right.
I think sometimes people use counselors as like a proxy for discernment
Yeah.
or prudence,
Yeah.
you
Maybe
know?
she's saying that because she doesn't wanna move and she's needs, like, an official out so that because
Yeah.
she wants to stay in the relationship, but she doesn't wanna move, but she doesn't wanna say that she doesn't wanna move, and so she says, "My counselor says I don't wanna
Yeah.
move."
If your counselor says you shouldn't move and your parents are like, why don't you try it out? And you go with your counselor, you have a
Mhm.
broken idea of what it means to like seek counsel, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. My counselor said that, uh, "My girlfriend is really cool, she just goes to another school and you don't know her, and my counselor is very smart, and so you should trust him."
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I don't know, he just needs to be aware that this woman obviously feels hesitant to move, and he just needs to get over himself. I think that's true in most cases for guys, is like, if you really wanna pursue the woman, you gotta pursue the woman.
Mhm.
And if he said like, "Oh, she's an answered prayer," but I just don't know what to do. It's like, well, you just do what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's a thing that I feel like it's very difficult for men, and I don't know anything, right? I have a 4-month-old. I've been married for less than 2 years. I don't know anything. But a lot of times you talk to older men who have lots of kids, who have been in their job for a long time, and you're like, "How do you do all the things that you do?" And he just says like, "You just do what you have to do." And I'm, like, starting to understand that,
Yeah.
because like, kid wakes up in the middle of the night, you just have to go get him, Kid is
Mhm.
screaming, you just have to hold him. Wife needs you to stay home even though you wanted to go to a thing with your friends, you stay home. You just do what you have to do. The more times you do that, the more that you learn that, like, that's just what it is to be a man. And this
Yeah.
guy who's single and 30 doesn't understand that yet. Like, he doesn't understand that you just have to do what you have to do. And
Yeah.
it's you can't explain it to him because he'll be like, "I don't get it." Because that's just how guys who haven't been through it are like.
Yeah.
Because I was
I'm
like
sorry
that,
I'm
you know?
starting to get that with, like, what I was, like, working with teenagers. It was like,
Yeah,
you just you just gotta do it.
yeah,
You know, like, with working with, like, middle schoolers, I would say, "Okay, you were over there with your friends, and your friends all made a mess, and you guys have to go clean it up." And they're like, "I didn't do all of that." You just gotta do it, though.
Yeah.
You have to do it. Like you just
Yeah.
like go. Oh, but some of the girls, but that's fine. Go do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's the
It's
that's the tough thing for this guy is it's hard to be a 30-year-old Redditor in America because it's
it's
just, I mean, everything is catered to you. You know, you've got disposable income. You're excited about the Mario movie for some
there's all
reason.
yeah.
You know, like it just you gotta
You
you
got
gotta get over
15
all
years
that.
of you got 15 years of Marvel,
Yeah.
you
It's
know, and you got
time
to
it's
enjoy all
time
of
to
it.
move on. It like
You were 15 years old when the
yeah,
first Iron Man movie came out, and you just got every year you got a new thing
yeah.
and a new thing and a new thing and a
And
new
we're all
thing.
very happy for you, but
Mhm.
it's time to pack it up. It's
It's
time to
time.
move
It's
on.
time. It's time.
Yeah. That's what I would say to this guy.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know anything, but I do have a doctorate, so he's not even out of school yet. Cringe. What's he getting his
Cringe.
JD? All right.
I only know one
JD
cool lawyer.
Flynn. Yeah. Who?
Regan.
Oh, that's true. Regan the GOAT, former editor of the show, former Crunch intern, current
Why be a
Discord mod.
Redditor when you can be an editor of the Crunch podcast?
I think that'll do it for us today.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/thecrunch, bit.ly/crunch discord.
Mhm.
Join the Patreon this week so that you can get the bonus episode on Victor Hugo's The Hunchback of Notre Dame reading plan to be dropped ASAP. We're probably going to do kind of like what we did for the Power of Silence Lenten book study. We're going to have some forums on the Discord for people to follow along with. And we'll that might be public and it might be private. I don't know. Because part of me is like, well, if we had the public forums and people saw other people talking about the book, they would join Discord or join Patreon. But if it's
Well,
private, then it's exclusive.
we can have them private, but only so we can have the conversation public, but
Yeah.
not everyone can comment.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's
Yep.
talk about that.
Let's do that.
Very good, Patrick. Well, do you have anything else for the people?
Tune in next week when I handwrite every Discord member's name on an individual piece of paper, put them in a hat, shake it all up, draw it, and then ban that person permanently.
Oh my goodness. How exciting.
I know. That's a joke. I'm not going to do that. Don't worry.
He will do it. Thank you all for listening. Please pray for us. We will be praying for you. And we'll see you all next week.